Genuinely, I never realized how much time I was actually wasting before I became a dad. And that's something that nobody can ever really prepare you for. I've heard people talk about this. I've heard people tell stories about this in the past, how you don't realize how efficient you need to be when you become a father. None of that stuff ever really made much of a difference to me. I never really listened to it much. And I always just thought of myself as someone who was a really disciplined individual who got my shit done, and I just moved on with my life. But genuinely, nobody was able to prepare me for what fatherhood was going to do to me as a person. And over the last 2 or 3 months, I've noticed so much changes in myself, not just physically, not just what I've seen, but emotional changes as well. And that's kind of what I want to go into a little bit today. And there's a couple of myths and a couple of things that I want to debunk completely today so that we can smash through anything that people may be telling you that maybe putting doubt or fears in your head. I'm here to tell you that the best thing that ever happened to me is having a daughter, having a baby. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's changed my life completely. And let's talk about it today. The first thing that I've noticed, and it's become ever apparent over the last couple of weeks, particularly, I didn't notice it as much in the first couple of weeks because your adrenaline is high and you're not really thinking about what's happening. But particularly over the last couple of weeks, you don't have the same energy that you once had. And it's completely okay for that to be the way. You're going to notice that your sleep is low. You're gonna have less sleep than you usually would do. And one of the most important things when it comes to actually driving progress with whatever you do, we keep it relevant to the topic that we're talking about here. If you're trying to drop body fat, if you're trying to build muscle, sleep is the most important thing that's going to move that needle forward. And when your sleep is lacking, or when your sleep is broken, or your sleep quality isn't necessarily where it once was, then that's going to be very hard for you to prioritize doing that. So your recovery is going to take a little bit longer when it comes to training in the gym. Your mental focus, just like naturally just being focused with where you're at. I don't know if anyone has been listening to my episodes in the past, but like if you listen to my episodes now versus episodes that I made before Grace came along. So if you go back to like the starting episodes, go back 4 or 5 months in my episodes and listen to the difference in my mental focus, you'll notice that I and quite a lot now because I lose trail of my thoughts quite a lot. So I'm a little bit less focused on what I'm doing, even though I'm trying my very best to focus when I'm scripting out these, when I'm talking these out. Don't script them, but when I'm talking them out loud, I find it very hard to stay focused on one task all at one time because sleep has naturally dipped, and it's completely normal for any person who has just had a child. Sleep pattern is not going to be right. Motivation levels aren't what they once were either. Like I do have days where I wake up and I just could not be bothered getting up out of bed, but I don't have a choice but to get out of bed, literally just because one, I need to work, two, my daughter is there like physically looking for food, always looking for something, and that's just something that you have to just get on with it. So motivation to go to the gym, motivation to look after my diet, it's fleeting. Sometimes I want to do it, sometimes I don't, but I'm doing it anyway just because, to be honest, I have to, because I can't be standing here or sitting here every week telling you this is what you need to do to be in shape and then not be in shape myself. So there was a time where, or there were 3 months in now. So the first month, I just didn't really get a chance to do any sort of training, to be honest. I wasn't training a whole lot. I wasn't eating well. I put on quite a lot of weight and I wasn't really happy with my body. And I got to that point where I wasn't feeling the way I wanted to feel. But I had to get okay with being a little bit outside because that's the early stages of fatherhood. And being a dad is my main priority. But now, obviously, my daughter has started sleeping a little bit better. She started having less wake windows in the night. So my sleep is a little less broken. Same with my partner. And we're actually able to get back into our training. So things have started moving a little bit better when it comes to training in that sense, but obviously still not back to the full level that we want to be. So lesson number one is that you're not going to have the same energy that you once did, purely because you're looking after someone else and yourself too. So motivation will fleet a little bit, and it's going to be a little bit harder for you to be able to hit the goals that you once were. So time will be ever precious. Stress is going to show itself. This is number two. Stress is going to show itself in your body first. You're going to notice things that you might not have noticed previously. Like you're going to notice when your shoulders are feeling a little bit tight, or if your hips are feeling stiff, or if you're bloated, or when you're just not hungry, you're going to notice that stuff far more because you're super stressed, and it's going to become more prominent for you. Fatherhood stress is not just an emotional thing. It's just living in your body all the time. What I've noticed, it's easing a little bit now because I'm starting to get back into my regular routine and having a regular cadence of my training and all. But I'm starting to feel like aches and pains in my body all around, constant tension in the back of my head. I've never really had that on a permanent basis before. It might come and go when I was a little bit stressed. But that was literally just because as men, we carry a lot of shit that we don't say out loud. Now, I say it out loud when I talk in these episodes, but there is a lot of shit that goes on in the man's brain. You've got to remember that there's stress levels that will show up because you're trying to look after this child, which would stress out most people, pretty much all people. But then as a man, you're also trying to still provide for that child. You're still trying to provide for your partner if you have a partner. You're still trying to work. Still, in my case, I'm still trying to run a business. I'm also trying to look after my body. I have to show up. I have to be the person that is a role model for all of my clients too. And all of that stuff, it just puts extra stress on your shoulders, and it constantly keeps gritting and gritting. And that makes performing at a high level, again, almost impossible. But yet you still have to show up and you still have to do things on these days. And yes, it's gotten a whole lot easier for me to do it now because the routine is starting to come back in. But this is stuff that people told me that I would lose sleep. People told me that I would struggle, but people didn't tell me that these were the signs that I was to look out for. And if I had known, I think if I was to have another child now, then I would be able to deal with it much better because I'd have everything in place now to know this is how you're going to deal with it. Number 3, fatigue is going to destroy your willpower completely. So that's where it's super important that you have a system, something in place. So this is the thing that I've implemented this with all of my clients at the moment. So I'd like to think that if any of my clients right now were to go off and have a child, that yes, they might have a little bit of a slowdown. Things might get a little bit bad for them, but they would be able to get through it, and they'd be able to deal with it with their training, with their nutrition, everything, because they have a system in place. And that's the system that I use in my program. You're not going to feel like cooking when you're working off of 2 hours sleep. You're not going to feel like prepping meals for the week when you're super stressed and you don't feel like you have time. And training is going to feel like something that you just don't want to do. You know, if you've done a long night shift with the baby and you've been awake all night, no one wants to go to the gym the next morning. You want to sleep. That's all you want to do. So you need to have that system in place, which is what I'm currently teaching the guys. And I'm teaching the guys this because I've gone through this myself and I'm able to implement this stuff. But you need to have like a fallback plan. You need to have fallback meals when your willpower is just not there. So like if you're not able to make something, you need to have something that you can have that isn't going to completely destroy what you're doing with your nutrition as a result of not being able to cook something. You need to have scheduled workouts. You need to actually treat the workouts as if they were your main priority on those times. You need to take time for yourself too. And you need to have a routine that you can do that basically just doesn't require you to make decisions. You can do it on autopilot. And if you can do something on autopilot, it won't take a whole lot of mental bandwidth to do it. So that way, when you don't have the willpower, you'll just naturally do it without thinking about it. That's the goal that most people will work towards. This is something that I wasn't really told, but luckily I had some small systems built, but now I have these systems in place that I feel like I can just free flow with them, and they allow me to keep going further and further. And I've really realized that if I didn't have systems myself, I'd just keep slipping. I'd just keep going down, 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 down. And it was like, I'm not a lazy person at all. I love being in the gym. I love training. I love pushing my body. I've been training for 15, 16 years now. It's part of my life. I'm not a lazy person. I will work if I have to work. But when you're super exhausted and you can't focus properly, it's very hard to do that stuff. And it makes you feel lazy. And if you have the systems in place to allow you to get in and get that shit done, it makes life just so much more easy for you, to be honest. 4 is another thing. Training has become now a little bit less about performance for me and just a little bit more about an identity thing. Like I go to train, I go to the gym to be healthy. There's that mental bandwidth going again. I go to the gym to be healthy. I go to the gym because it is who I identify as. I identify as a healthy person right now. It's not for me about going into the gym and trying to bench press as much weight as I can and see how much more weight I can lift than last week. It's really not about that at the moment. It's about For me, it's about being a man who my daughter can look up to and see as a role model. Oh, this man is my dad, and he takes care of himself. He looks after me. He looks after the family, but he is in good shape and he's healthy. Because unfortunately, we're in an epidemic at the moment where there is more unhealthy, obese, overweight people in the world than there is healthy people. So we need as many people to be role models for their kids. And that's the thing that, like, if anyone comes into the Life Lift Repeat project, my online coaching program, and ever says, oh, I don't really know why I want to lose weight, I just kind of want to lose weight, I'll press them on it, because most of the time they want to lose weight for their kids. They want to be a role model if they have kids, and they want to be a role model for someone. Now I train literally just so my daughter can see what showing up actually looks like. Even on the hard days, when the days I don't feel like going to the gym, I go to the gym. Yeah, she probably doesn't realize what I'm doing right now. She's only young still. She hasn't really got a clue what's going on around her. But eventually she will look back and see her dad as the person who goes to the gym, the person who shows up, the person who's able to do work, able to get their work done, even though things are a little bit chaotic. And I hope that one day she will appreciate that. So that's why my training's become a little bit less about performance now. It's still going in to try and better myself every day, but I'm not literally just going in there for the whole sake of just trying to smash out as many weights as I possibly can. There's a tactic and there's a system behind it. I'm in the gym 3 days a week now. There was a point when I was in the gym 6 days a week. Now 3 days is plenty for me. I get in, I get my shit done efficiently as I possibly can, and get out and allow me to stay in that shape that I want to be in. Self-compassion, this is number 5, sorry. Self-compassion has just become just as mental bandwidth going again. Self-compassion has become just as important as consistency for me right now. So some weeks I have noted that things are just going to fall to shit, and it's completely normal for that to happen. And at one point I wouldn't have liked that to happen. I had to be consistently on it all the fucking time. But as a father, there will be times where you've got a session planned in and you can't do that session purely because something's happened at home. The child needs to go somewhere. You need to take the child somewhere, and you don't get to get that session done. And maybe you only get 2 sessions done that week instead of 3. And instead of where I would have in the past said to myself, well, you've missed a session, that's not good enough, that's bad. I basically had to drop the guilt and start focusing on the bounce back rather than the mess up. We're not trying to be perfect, and we shouldn't, as fathers, try to be perfect, because nobody is perfect. It's being imperfect and recovering from the mishaps is where the actual results happen. So if I've had a weekend where I've just eaten like shit, my whole win will be not letting Monday be the next day that I eat like shit. You're back on track on Monday. Or if I've done it this weekend, I will not let it happen next weekend. And I will celebrate every single little win, like I encourage all of my clients to do. I will always say to myself, that was a massive win, well done, great stuff, rather than you're a fucking asshole, why would you do that? Because every time you speak negatively to yourself, and this is something that you should take from this video here itself, or if you're listening to the audio, never speak negatively to yourself. If you wouldn't say it out loud to someone else, don't say it to yourself, because you're going to just keep smashing your self-confidence over and over and over again. And that's why you keep failing as a result, because you just don't trust yourself to stick with the process. Probably an episode for a different day. I may have already touched on it in the past. The next thing, number 6, and I'm using 7 of these in total here, but number 6, this is one that I've really nailed down over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. And this is one that I should have given more of a, if I had been told this before I was starting a father, this is one of the ones that I would have made a huge priority to me. It's your nutrition. It needs to be simple. You need to have flexibility in it, and it needs to be forgiven too. You need to eat to feel good and stay fueled, but like, you cannot be punishing yourself if you've slipped up a little bit. If you've missed a meal because you had to give your child a bottle, that's not on you, and you just get back on track when it's gone. Frozen meals, those quick high protein snacks, all them sort of things, meal deals, sometimes they are the only way to go, because if you're not getting sleep overnight and you're getting maybe 15 minutes spare during the day, then where are you getting time to prep, for 4 hours, 5 hours, and have all your meals ready to go in lunch boxes. You're probably not going to have that time. So sometimes there will be times when you have to live off frozen meals or those quick high protein snacks instead of having a decent dinner. And that's okay sometimes, once it doesn't become a staple forever. I'm lucky. I'm in a very, I always say this, and I'll say this out loud. And if she's listening to this, I will shout her name to the rooftops. But genuinely, I'm lucky because I've got a really, really good partner, a really supportive partner. And she has helped massively with all of this. She's trying to look after herself. I'm trying to look after myself. We're singing from the same hymn sheet. If I make dinner one night, she makes dinner the next night. It just depends on who's doing the most time and who has the most time available. And if neither of us have time, then we'll figure out a way to make it happen. You cannot just be consistently chasing eating clean and trying to be perfect all the time. Clean eating doesn't necessarily work either. That's something that I've spoken about. But I've started chasing just being consistent. Be consistent with your food every day. Sometimes you're not hungry. Sometimes you are. Sometimes you think you're hungry and you're not hungry. Another episode that I've done in the past. Go back and watch them. Listen to them if you need to. And number 7, this is the biggest one. Let me leave you on this one. You start leading by example without even trying to lead by example. I've started leading by example. Well, I like to think that I've started leading by example. And I haven't really been trying to do it. I know that my daughter is going to be watching me all the time. She's going to watch what I eat, how I eat. She's going to watch how I move. She's going to watch how I talk even. And she's going to absorb it all. And even if she doesn't fully understand what's going on right now, simple little habits like me not finishing my meal because I've been scrolling on my phone, simple little things like that. That's the stuff that people are going to pick up on. And now that I'm aware of this and I know that I'm just constantly being watched all the time by a little tiny person that lives in my house, it makes me want to think and act accordingly as a role model for her. So I didn't know this was going to hit me as hard before I became a dad, but genuinely, I think now for everything, what if she's seen this, even if she's not in the room? What if I skip my workout today? What if she could see me skip my workout? Would she think it's okay for her to skip on things? What if I'm sat at the dinner table today and I just spend the whole time scrolling on my phone and just completely ignore my partner while I'm sat there? Would she think that's an okay thing to do? And I'm thinking constantly all the time, should I do this? Should I not do this? And most of the time it's, you shouldn't do this. This is something that you should do. I'm trying to become a dad who is a role model for my daughter, who she can grow up and say that this is my dad. And becoming a dad has actually made me want to embody the man who, obviously, a little bit of a off step here. I have a daughter, she's a little girl. I want to be the man who my daughter eventually ends up with. Put it that way. Okay, because obviously we don't talk about that stuff right now. She's still young. But one day she's going to grow up. She's going to meet a man. And I want her to meet a man who I would like to have been. And I'm trying to be that man every day. Even if you're not necessarily a father right now, even if you have been through this phase and you're in that next phase and you've moved on, and if you think about it one day, or even if you've no interest in ever having kids, ever, this is something that I was never taught in the build-up, and I wanted to just talk about it personally. I've been in a really tough place over the last couple of months, but now I feel like I'm coming out the other side of it. And I've learned all this stuff and I want to share this stuff so that people could potentially take inspiration from it too. So if this episode has been helpful for you, if you've taken something from it, or if you know someone who is going through this same change right now, has just become a dad and might be struggling, send them this episode. Share the link, send it over to them.